Hello, Sparky. You're in the shot. Thank you.
Hello there. Over the last few weeks, I've been experimenting with a new workflow to create my images, and it's been really exciting. So I wanted to share it with you and also discuss whether this could be the future of photography. Over many of my more recent philosophical type videos, I have discussed how often the importance of the gear is overstated and we should more be focusing on the artistic side. However, from time to time, there is a shift in technology that generates a buzz, something that comes along that gets us excited like children on Christmas morning. The early 2000s were full of moments like this, but over the last 10 years, I can't really remember ever getting that excited about a new piece of gear. That is, until I very recently picked up the new iPad Pro with the 13-inch screen. Now, this video is not a review of the iPad, but it's just my tablet of choice to see whether this could become the workflow of the future. And not just as a gimmick either, for serious photographers like us who do everything from the planning right through to the final print. Right, when I planned this video, I did want to do it from the top of a mountain somewhere with some nice sunny weather, but we're still in lockdown, so we'll have to make do with the garden. Let's go.
Right, so I'm in position for a shot and we're going to do a little bit of macro photography. Macro photography is absolutely perfect for doing around the house. Now, very recently on the Raw Room, I released a 4-part macro tutorial. So if you want to check that out, you can get a free 7-day trial and I'll put a link down below for that. But I'm fortunate enough to have a garden, and when I moved in, realized that in the spring, these absolutely stunning bluebells pop up. And they are perfect for macro photography because they form just a really nice subject. I'm going to try and capture one of them in the best possible way. Now, macro photography has a certain number of challenges. First and foremost is the light. Now, it's probably better shooting flowers, I think, on a day when you don't have direct light on your subject. It's overcast this morning, so it's quite a nice diffused light, which is perfect. If you have to shoot in the shade, that's going to be okay as well, but if you've got direct sunlight on your subject, then it's possibly not going to look as good because you get very high contrast, which doesn't always look so good. The other challenge is a lens. Obviously, I've got a macro lens here. You can use macro extension tubes to turn a normal lens into a macro lens, but then we also have the issue of depth of field. Now, with macro photography, the depth of field gets very, very shallow, even as you start to increase the aperture number or make the aperture smaller. And that's what we want to do, but that then makes the image darker. So a lot of the time we would use flash, but today I've got some nice flat light. I'm just going to increase my ISO a little bit and I should be okay. So I want to find one that gives you that sort of classic arching bluebell shape. I think probably there's one just down here. If I can get down low, I need to move back a little bit. I'm a little bit close. Let's give that a go. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a little bit busy though, because when we're doing macro photography like this, we want to still think about the composition. What's the story we're still trying to tell? And I want to tell a story here of just one bluebell, and I want to get a little bit of this beautiful green stem in there as well. I'm not always a massive fan of green in my images, but I do like it in the spring because it just jumps out at you and says spring, particularly contrasted against this kind of purpley blue colour of the bluebells. Another thing when you're shooting like this is that if you get any areas of shadow in your background, they're going to appear very dark. So let me just show you that. If I just focus in on this one here, I've got a bit of a dark shadow in the background. You can see that the bluebell is nice, but it's just surrounded by a black area, and that makes it look a bit unrealistic. That's not my experience of looking at these bluebells right now. It's much more about the blues and the greens, so that's what I want in my image. Also, you want to think about your composition, get the bluebell in the right position, be aware of the background. Do I want the background to be green? Do I want it to have some of this bluebell type colour in it? And that is what I want. So I'm going to get down nice and low. So I'm shooting one that's a bit further towards the bottom, and then in the background, because I've got that nice shallow depth of field, it's going to blow some of these bluebells out. So I've got that colour in there, just like this. I've got a nice bit of green stem in there. I've got a nice background. It's looking good, as you can see here. Settings-wise, at the moment, I'm at 125th of a second f5.6, which is still quite shallow for this type of thing, and I've boosted my ISO up to 800. So it's going to be a really nice kind of ethereal type image with only very few minor spots that are actually in really sharp focus, and that's going to be the center of the flower. So let's focus on the center of the flower, get that composition right. This lens has stabilization, which helps with composing the image. Fire off. Yeah, that's looking really, really nice. I'm just going to take a few more, just play around with it a little bit and get the pictures that I want, and then we'll pick the best one of the bunch. Now, on a normal shoot, when I'm out and about, it would be at this point, after I've captured the image, that I start to think about coming home so I can see those images and edit them, because that's often the big part of the enjoyment of it. But part of the reason I bought this iPad was that potentially I don't have to do that. It's small enough and it's light enough that I can carry it with me into the field, which means I can then actually edit the images in the field as well, spend more time outdoors where I love to be. One of the problems, or the first problem, is actually getting the images off the camera into the iPad because it only has one USB-C input, but very straightforward. I have this really nice little device here. It's called a hyperdrive, and it has a USB-C port, an SD card port, a micro SD card port, another USB, and a headphone jack, which is nice as well. So very straightforward. I just push that into the iPad like so, and then take the memory card and just slot that in as well. I'm also using the Apple Pencil, which is a really nice way to edit your images as you actually do the drawing on the screen. I'll show you that in a minute, but I'm just going to open the Lightroom app, and then I've already created this Bluebells album. And then I just click over here to add the photos, and I'm just going to click from camera device, and the images that I have done pop up, and then I'm just going to click on the date there. It selects them all, and then just click import, and it will copy them onto the iPad and then eventually into the cloud with the Adobe system, which is really quite nice. Right, that's done. So I can just click on the cross there, and all the images have popped up on the screen. You can see it's importing them. Some really nice ones here, as you can see. I like the stems in that, but that's not quite working. Yeah, that's nice. But I think this is the one I'm going to edit. You can see the beautiful detail on the internal part of the flower there. So I want to increase the exposure a little bit, probably by about 1 stop, and then reduce the highlights so I'm not getting lots of bright highlights on this area here. Don't want that to overpower the image. So I'm just going to drag those highlights down like that, and then increase the shadows a little bit because I want to be able to see the inner part of that flower. Hello, Sparky. You're in the shot. Thank you. And I just want to cool it down a little bit with the temperature. So just come down like that, and that makes it go that even. It just makes that bluebell colour really pop then. I'm also going to add in some tint as well. Just to bring out that purple, and that's starting to look really, really good. I also really like that green stem opposed to the rest of the image. It's just looking really, really nice. Right, one thing that's really nice with the Apple Pencil is that you can actually draw on the image itself. So let's just go on there and click on light and increase the shadows. It does it on the whole image first so you can see. So maybe around there, and then again just fill in the center of that flower just like that, just to brighten that up a touch. Let's have a look, see what difference that's made. Oh yeah, that's real nice, really subtle, really nice way to improve that. So let's have a look. I mean, I think overall that looks really good. So now I want to just take a look at that stem and just make sure that's the right color that I want. So I'm going to come into the color panel and open up the HSL panel, get rid of the grass. And what's really nice with the Apple Pencil is that you can just hit on the little target thing here, and then I've got hue selected down at the bottom here, and then I just touch on an area of the image and drag up and down, and it actually changes the color. So it's got more yellow there, it's more green there. I actually think what I captured initially was just about right, so I'm just going to undo that, and I think the image is just looking great as it is. So I think that's pretty much my final image, and I'm really, really happy with that. Now, normally, and why I'm so excited about this iPad and this way of editing and doing pictures, is that I've found an app on here that will connect to my printer, essentially, so I can print with the iPad. Now that's often, it's been a while that we've been able to print off a phone or an iPad, but the problem is that you didn't have fine control over your printer settings, things like paper size, paper type, that kind of thing. But now with this Canon app, it can do that. So what we first need to do is to export, and always with printing, we want to export the highest possible file quality. Now Lightroom Mobile lets you do that. So I'm just going to click on the share icon here and then click export as. And as you can see, I've got TIFF selected there, so you could choose JPEG, DNG or TIFF. TIFF is a good option for printing. With the largest available dimensions, I'm going to stick to 8 bits because there's not really much point in going to 16, but I'm going to stick to 8. And that's all looking fine. I don't want any compression. And then just export. Open up the Canon print. Now you can see here that image is now popped into my feed. So I just click on that. There's the image looking really rather beautiful. Select that and then click next. And it opens up into here. And you can see I've got printer settings here. So I've got just one copy. You can choose all of the paper sizes. I want to do this as big as I can with my printer, which is A3 plus. Now I'm going to use a semi-gloss. It's the photopaper semi-gloss. I want it borderless, and that's looking pretty good. Let's go back, and the printer is already set up. It's got paper in it already. I've got that set up in my office. Now I've never tried this before, so I'm really excited to see whether it works. So I'm going to click print and then see what happens. And hopefully right now, this is sending that print over to my printer in the office, where we're going to head back and take a look. I'm excited though. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Here we go then, back to the office. It is absolutely ridiculous how excited I am to see this. Ooh, let's have a look at this. Oh my goodness. Just take a look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. It's worked out so nicely, and I'm absolutely astonished that from actually just shooting it outside, doing the editing outside, and then sending this picture via Wi-Fi from the iPad to the printer and then printing it out just so beautifully. It's so exciting. I genuinely think this is the future of the whole photography process. From being out in the field, editing on the iPad, and then just directly printing from that with those fine controls over these printers. I know people often don't like big corporations like Adobe and Canon, but I mean, wow. Just looking at the print, I'm really happy with the image generally, and there's just no noticeable difference that it's been done with this new type of workflow, which is really encouraging and really exciting. Now, everything is not perfect though. I don't think we're quite there as this being a full-time replacement. Part of the problem is Lightroom CC on the iPad or your phone, in that there's a couple of shortcomings that it has. It does not allow you to combine bracketed images, for example. It also doesn't have the range masking. But one of the biggest things is probably that the cataloging, and you can't access folders directly through the app. That hopefully will all come. But the iPad is pretty much going to be a replacement for my laptop as well, because with the hyperdrive, it's also got HDMI output on it, so you can hook it up to the monitor. You can attach a mouse and keyboard now with the iPad as well, and you can sit down at a desk with a decent proper color monitor or color profiled monitor, whatever, and you can sit there and edit your pictures in Lightroom on the screen, and it's really impressive. It's really impressive. With the print app, I'm not sure, I have no idea whatsoever whether there's a print app for Epson and stuff like that, but that Canon one is absolutely excellent. It's not perfect again though. Hopefully it will come later down the line. At the moment, it will not let you print on fine art papers. But I mean, still, going from the planning of that shot right through to that final print without really using a computer, I'm excited about that.
and I genuinely think it could potentially be the future of photography. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Have you messed around with your editing workflow? Do you think this could work for you? I'd really love just to get a conversation going on down below, and I will see you on another one very, very soon. I'm Adam. This is First Man Photography. Out.